That moment when the captain of our national team, Temba Bavuma, was basically left stranded on the SA20 auction floor. To talk about this and other cricketing matters, we've got with us cricket analyst Lunga Kopiso. Lunga, my heart, I don't even follow cricket that much. And I watched that and I was cringing. What happened? Why?
Missed opportunity. It's systemic, the systems engineering coming to play. It's well thought out ideologies playing out to us now over time. To reduce it to a PR failure or a PR nightmare actually reduces the weight of that moment. And really it's something that Cricket South Africa will look back again, yet again, as a highlight that indicts the corporation or the organization as one that continuously fails cricket in South Africa.
Yeah.
And of course, a lot of people will say Cricket South Africa isn't failing cricket in South Africa because we've got cricket and it's doing well and it's growing. But actually, if it's not growing sustainably across all spheres, especially within those communities who were previously marginalized or pushed aside from participating in the game, then, you know, they are failing at what they are supposed to be doing.
So what could have been done differently? I mean, that's the question I suppose everybody's asking. In this instance, to avoid such an embarrassing situation, should all the Proteas have been placed in teams, for example?
No, no one should ever be guaranteed a place, except your national captain.
The national captain, one would think.
And it happens everywhere. You see national captains losing form, they never get dropped because it's your national captain. You do elect a captain who you're saying you will back 110%. Mark Boucher came yesterday and he gave a speech about backing Temba Bavuma, and the team supports Temba Bavuma. And Cricket South Africa as an organization have been very good at that, you know, talking shop, speaking big, but actually when it comes to action and doing what they are speaking or putting action to what they say is Bible to their organization, they've failed. Strategically, Temba should have never been put to auction. He should have been one of those players who was seeded into one of the teams. It could have been a conversation that Cricket South Africa could have had with one of the teams. That, okay, guys, our national captain's base price is 850. It might be too high, considering his strike rate, because that's what everybody's saying.
Yeah.
He didn't get picked because his strike rate is low, but there are players who actually did get picked with slightly lower strike rates than Temba does. And strike some sort of deal where Cricket South Africa does balance the books for that side, pay. So a side will pick Temba and say, look, this is what we're offering against this 850, and then Cricket South Africa counters that to make sure that the books balance. Something that you see in football when a player gets loaned out to another club, being contracted to another club, negotiations on the table, you pay a portion of the salary, we'll pay a portion of the salary. What that does is it allows Temba, as the captain of the format, to continue championing what you are trying to set up. Now he's a disenfranchised player. He's disappointed speaking at a press conference about a product that you're trying to launch and you're trying to get the country to fall in love with.
Yes.
Whereas, in fact, now the conversation that you and I are having is actually, why should we fall in love with a tournament and a competition that doesn't seem to be doing justice to everybody who's interested in the game? So he should have never gone to auction, should have been seeded in a team, and that's a lesson for Cricket South Africa to learn.
Another lesson.
Another lesson.
Yeah, another lesson for Cricket South Africa, which is just another thorn in its side to walk around with. But let's look at it this way. Obviously, every the guys are allowed to come. I mean, the team owners, they come. They are entitled to buy who they want to. That's pretty much so how it works. But we live in a bit of a complicated country as well, where there should be opportunities that should be available, and perhaps a quota system is something that needed to be introduced at that time. I mean, does that work when you get to this level, though? So
I think for us to sit and say we live in a complicated society as South Africa, we're actually reducing the complexity of our history. We're reducing the inequalities that exist today as a direct consequence of our history. So perhaps that's something that we need to remove in our tone or in our conversations, in our language as South Africans. We don't live in a difficult environment. We live in a true reflection of what was systematically designed to hold us back in how we evolve as a country, as a community. anybody who wants to come to SA to do business in any sort of sphere, whether it's sports, whether it's economic, commercial, whatever the case may be, they come with the understanding that there are certain inequalities that are being addressed economically or commercially through the opportunities that may arise. Yeah. Because we are a country that doesn't want to close itself off to the global community, you need to come to do business understanding that you also need to pull us along.
Absolutely.
And so anybody who wants to come and own a cricketing franchise needs to have that understanding. And that's what Cricket South Africa is there for, to remain the custodians, the guardians of our game, to ensure that everybody is participating. So if you roll the clock back, they had the glorious idea of the T20 Global League, and there were quota systems. You saw something like 18, 19 African players who were selected to participate in that competition. Now you're sitting at 6, and we're very lucky that we're actually sitting at 6.
It's unacceptable. It really is unacceptable. I mean, it's just something where you look at and, you know, cricket has that reputation. Cricket South Africa has that reputation. The stories that have come out, the shock stories that have come out from former Proteas and people that we've looked up to and loved and respected that sort of have broken down and said, you know, I would rather have run behind the bus than be on the bus because of the way I was treated by my fellow white players. So we know this goes on, but, you know, how do we make the sport more inclusive? Because it is a conversation that needs to be had, even more so with what was a very, very bad image that was portrayed by what just happened this week.
So in communication science, there is a communication theory that they speak about, which is two-way communication instead of top-down or bottom-up. Two-way communication allows for conversations to be happening simultaneously, from the top up, from bottom going up. And what that means for Cricket South Africa now, to redress the issues that we have, it can happen at grassroots only. It also needs to happen at executive level. And to just talk shop at executive level is not good enough. You also need to talk about the people that are running the game. Who are the engineers? Who are the tacticians? Who are the sound minds that are being appointed to run the game, to develop the game? So if you have no balance in those executive positions or in the decision-making positions, you're not going to see the change that we speak about translating into action. Because certain individuals who do not connect to the struggle or who do not connect to the issues that are innate to the fiber of our society cannot actually put to action solutions that are going to bring about the change that we need. Yeah. So if you want to see grassroots development where, say, a black child from Soweto or a black child from Ekolosa grows up to be a Protea, you need to go and take cricket to those environments.
Indeed.
But at the same time, you need to have someone at the top who understands what are the challenges that those kids are going to face so that the development programs that are being put into place actually speak to them. So, for example, a child who's going to school in a cricketing school in Gauteng is going to have, probably they're going to carry 3 lunch boxes. That's not a reality that someone from those other 2 areas I've mentioned can actually make happen on a daily basis, because we know how inaccessible food security is, not just in South Africa, I mean, across the continent. And so you need to find that balance. You need to have people in place who can connect to the issues, but also who are wanting to champion solutions to those issues.
Lunga, we're in headline time, but I do want a 30-second closing from you. The Proteas are off now to India, okay? The T20 World Cup is coming, it's coming up, and Temba's career right now is at a very big turning point. Do you think he can still be the one? Do you think he can still lead this team and be victorious at it?
Well, Boucher has put his neck out on the line and he said the side supports Temba, which he really didn't put his neck out because at the end of the World Cup he's going away. It will be important to see how Temba responds through this Indian series, knowing the stature of the guy, knowing his head, and the way he's carried himself as the leader. He has the poise, he has the panache to go out there and still lead the side with dignity. I do think that he will regain his form, he'll find himself again, and who knows, this could be that launch pad that propels him into greater heights as a leader, as a cricketer in the format. But also it could be, the decision that really curtails his career after the World Cup, gets stripped off of his captaincy, and that's the end of Temba in T20.
Oh, all right. We'll wait and see. Cricket analyst Lunga Kupiso, thank you. Great chatting to you.
Pleasure.
Thanks for making it easy for me.